place. Thank you. So, what do we think? What is happening in this picture? So, one theory is bowing to a god. What are some other theories that we have here?
Sacrifice, maybe?
Oh, a sacrifice. Who do you think's doing sacrificing here?
The guy that's standing up.
Okay, you think he's sacrificing this guy? Okay. What are some other theories, and who do you think these people are and stuff like this? I think, from what Aya said, probably that this would be the god, right? Simon thinks that this is the guy who's going to do some sacrificing, and this is the sacrificial person. Look at how they're dressed, what they're holding, things like that. So let's try to talk about what's going on in this stone carving. Come on, guys. Just look at it. What do you think's happening? Nothing too complicated in this question. It's not like I'm going to be like, no, what you think is completely wrong because you should know it. No, you shouldn't know this yet because you haven't learned it yet. Be brave. What do you think, Ish?
I agree with Simon. I think it's a sacrifice.
Okay. Who do we think these different people are then? What do we think this guy is? I mean, I look at him, I see he's got some fancy clothes on here. He's got a fancy headdress. What do you think, Celine?
I'm not sure who he is, but I don't think he's the person that's being sacrificed because he looks like he has a lot of fancy stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any other thoughts here? This guy, he's got a headdress too. He's got this crazy staff thing going on. So what we have here is actually going to be, it is a sacrifice. You guys are right. And actually, it's not what you're going to think. We're going to get to it in a little bit. Let me get to some of these other parts about Mayan culture, and then we'll get, I should have, the thing starts right about there, so I was silly. So the Mayans were great merchants and traders, just like the Olmecs before them. They built a ton of pyramids because they had a lot of wealth, so that's one way we can tell that they were very wealthy. And these cities had roads, white cement roads connecting them, which is really cool. So we've got a very early road system. And you have to remember, these guys were in the Stone Age technology, so it's pretty impressive that they're able to do this. But another really cool thing that they had were these humongous canoes that could fit 40 people and all of the stuff that they were trading in. I want you to think about it. How many of you have been in a canoe before? How many people were in the canoe that you were in, Campbell? Think about how many people were with you in a canoe? Me and your dad, yeah. Simon, you said you were in a canoe. How many people were in your canoe with you? One, two other people for Aya. Okay. What do you think, Em, Celine? Saw you guys have your hands up. Just your dad and you, okay?
Yeah, 1 to 2 people.
Yeah.
I want to have a canoe before Daddy.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. And think about it. A canoe, what, like probably 8 feet long or so, 5 to 8 feet long, something like that, average canoe. So think about that. And like, it's not like when you were with 1 or 2 other people, you had a ton of space on this canoe. Now imagine a canoe large enough to have 40 people and have room for all of the stuff that they're trading. So these are huge ships. It's really cool that they're going to be going and doing the trade from it. And here, this is where I was supposed to talk about what's happening in the picture. But you guys are right. It's a sacrifice. Now, what if I told you, though, that this is a king? What? A king's getting sacrificed? And this is a priest right here. Now, this is not... yes, me, I'll get to you before I start saying stuff. Mamma mia.
I was gonna say king, because he has like that like fancy thing on his head, and he has like like he looks like really rich, like a king would. He has like
Yeah,
all
he's got this
the clothing.
jewelry. He's got earrings. I mean, yeah, he looks super fancy. So this is a king. Now, this is not. He's not going to lose his life here, but he is offering blood. So this is one of the crazy things. So to the Maya, human life / human blood was the most important thing in the world. It was more valuable than anything. And I know right now some of you are thinking, and why would they kill each other and do it? Well, because they believed at the creation of man that they owed a blood debt to the gods, that they owed something to the gods, and that was the best thing that they can give back to the gods was life itself. Now, this king is not going to end his life here. This king is offering a blood sacrifice, and this is what's crazy. So you look at this staff here, and you see right about there is this little pointy thing sticking out. And so what the king would do is the king would stick out his tongue, okay? And then they would pierce through the tongue. And so right here, he's holding this thing. This is a rope. And what he would do is the hole would be big enough that they would pierce through the tongue, that he would put the rope through the tongue. I know, crazy, right? So it would through the tongue. It just hurts thinking about it, right? And there would go, and you see it's really long. It goes down, 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 and it's going to go into the bowl. And so what happens is it would draw the blood out from the cut on the tongue and put it. Poor Emmy, she looks distressed. She's like, parents, help me. And it would go, and they would collect the blood, and then they would paint it on the walls, and that's how they would do their offerings to the gods. And the idea behind this ritual was that then the Mayan king could speak the words of the gods. And it wouldn't just stop there, though. They wanted to hear the words of the god. They would pierce inside of the ear and do a similar kind of thing. Now, this is going to be something that the Mayan. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, you guys are hilarious. But here's where it gets really crazy. When the king wanted to have an heir to the throne, when they needed to have a son, they'd have to give blood somewhere else, guys. But we'll just stop it at that. We'll keep it PG. Celine's face. Oh, man, I love you guys. Yeah, I know I'm air. That's why we're just going to leave it at that. We're not going to go into detail with that one. I couldn't possibly scar poor Charity hearing that kind of thing anyways. Poor Charity, just Charity. So let's talk about the class structure that we have for our Mayans here. So on the top is the ruler, of course. And the reason why they're kings, and this is for each city-state, I want to remind you, because they're separate independent city-states for the Maya. The king rules because he's descended from the gods. Obviously. That's why Amer says he can rule you, because his great-great-great-grand Amer was not just a mortal, was a god. So listen to him, okay? What? Don't look it up, though. Don't, go talk to old people and try to find it. Just trust him, okay? His great-great-great-grand Amer was a god, okay? Now, just like typical civilizations, this was going to be based on when he dies, either his son or a close male relative will become the next ruler. So this is just a standard monarchy, okay? Where it's, next of kin and son. Then, of course, you have your nobles and priests, and these are going to be the only people who can read and write. The priests are going to be the only people who can read and write. Nobles could do some, but it's typically just for the priests, and the nobles were the officials. They were also the generals, so they're the ones collecting your taxes, leading the battles. And the priests were incredibly important. Kind of like how in Egypt, the priesthood was so important, this idea of keeping the gods happy. It's actually kind of interesting, all of the similarities between the Egyptians and the Mayans, actually. Now, it looks different with how they executed, but it's the same idea of having the priests being very important because they're going and keeping the gods happy. Rulers were, gods, building pyramids, hieroglyphic language. It's pretty cool. And so the ruler, so King Amer, even though he's king, he was constantly going to like High Priestess Isha and saying, "Hey, is today a good day for us to start planting our crops?" Or go to High Priestess Selene and say, "Should we go to war against the Jacobites? Or are the Jacobites going to defeat me? So should I not go to war?" Okay, you can keep gluing on your doghouse, Pumpkin. She has a big cardboard box that we decorate, and she calls her doghouse. It's very cute. All right. Continuing on with class structure. Now we have our merchants and artisans, and as we talked about, the Mayans were so good, and so they were always trading. So, for example, if you were to get like a question like on a Quizzy Poo, like that you'll have this week, like Friday, and it's like, how do you know that the Mayans traded a lot? Well, things like connecting their cities with right roads and having large 40-man canoes and stuff like that. That's just, I don't know. If you want to learn that sort of thing and get an A, I'd probably remember it. BT dubs. Okay. So things that they traded, which I'm not going to really ask you about, things like obsidian, which obsidian is volcanic glass. It is like the blackest like kind of mineral you can get. And like when you go and sharpen it, it is like so sharp. They would use that as basically like surgical scalpels and things like that. It was crazy sharp. And then jade, which is really pretty. They actually thought jade was more important than gold, and they made a lot of stuff out of jade. Now, and a lot of the things that they made were, of course, to honor their gods. Then below the merchants, artisans, of course, we have our peasants. They're the farmers and the builders. And they're going to build, and farm. And that's how we have these pyramids. And that's how they had their slash and burn agriculture for food. And finally, at the very bottom, the Mayans, like pretty much every society, will practice slavery. And essentially, with slaves, it could be that you were a prisoner of war. It could be that you broke a law. But unlike slavery that we just discussed with the Americas, for the African slave trade, these slaves were not treated badly. I mean, we have to remember, we can't say slavery is ever good because you're not free, but they weren't abused, and you could also become free, which is a big improvement. Yes, Sahil, the rulers typically wouldn't learn how to read and write. There probably were some Mayan kings that did learn it just with their proximity with the elite. But typically, most nobles probably couldn't either. It was mostly the priests who would do the reading and writing. That's kind of one of those monopolies of knowledge kind of thing that allows, certain groups to stay in power over others. All right, and now let's look at family life. All right, so Mayan society is going to be fairly typical of many societies at this time. Women are typically going to stay at home and take care of the household. And men are going to work in the fields. So domestic chores up to the ladies, manual labor up to men, so the farming and the building. Now, guess what, girls? You're what, the ripe age of 11, 12 right now? You're getting pretty close to marriage if you're Mayan. You'd be married at 14. Yeah, I was like, finally, I'm so ready. And here's the kicker, which is super duper gross. If you're a boy, you got married around age 20. I mean, it's probably one of those things that they show that girls just mature faster than boys. But the problem is poor Charity has to marry like some older dude. Celine's face, hilarious. I love it. And what makes it even better, because Savona's like, I'm so lovely. All these boys are going to want to marry me. What am I going to do? How am I going to pick? Well, guess what, Savona? You don't get to pick. Your parents will pick for you. Doesn't it just get better and better? Emmy has got some good facial expressions about this too. Yeah, so that was the family life for the Maya. Fun little tidbits. And so final slide here. This is just showing where the Maya, where we have our Mayan city-states, Chichen Itza, right here. And we know that the Maya will mysteriously abandon their homelands. We're going to spend the rest of the week in the Maya because I figure why rush it? And then next week we're going to get to these guys right here, the Aztecs, which, oh boy, if you think the Maya had some fun things with it, the Aztecs are to the extreme. So I hope you enjoyed that. I am stopping the recording now. I'm thankful that I remembered to.